I'm Julie Smith. You know, it's been a busy day today, but it was important to me to take a few minutes to sit down and talk with you about some things I think you may have some questions about. In the recent Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum, several ideas were brought up by Mr. Cater regarding tax anticipation notes, maybe another option versus a millage increase that took place in 2013. And I wanted to give you, the constituents and the residents of this community, some information to consider as we go forth into this election. Back in 2013, when we were faced with such a budget deficit for the city of Tifton, we had to look at all options. I've told you before, we had cut to the bone. There was no more meat. We had allowed people to retire early. We had outsourced. We had done everything we could to cut money, but we still needed money. We had used all of our contingency funds, and right now, the state of South Carolina is all in our thoughts and prayers as they're going through what they're going through. Think about the people in Charleston and Columbia, where those cities are literally shut down. When you have a natural disaster or something that happens, you've got to have a contingency fund there. We also had, a previous council had frozen city employees' retirement, which was not really probably the best thing to do. It was not an illegal move. I don't want to insinuate that in any way, but it was certainly probably not in the best interest of the city, but they did what they felt like they had to do. So I've made some notes, and I'm going to sort of refer to my notes if you'll let me, and let me share with you the information so that you can make an informed, good decision when you go to the polls very soon. Again, I said the tax anticipation note was an option that Mr. Cater threw out on the table. It did not pass that night. We had the last budget hearing and we made the decision to change the millage rate. But I wanted to share with you what a tax anticipation note is. Tax anticipation note or loan. It's a loan that has a deferred payment. And me being a small business owner, I understand the challenges of balancing budgets, and even in my household, my husband and I both work very hard, so money comes in, the bills come in, money goes back out. With a tax anticipation note, all it does is defer the payment. It's a note that you borrow. And the way that I thought I could explain it would be similar to this. Let's say that you go out and open a credit card. It's got a $10,000 balance, and you go spend that $10,000 on that MasterCard. You get a nice sofa, you get all kinds of, you buy all sorts of things. Now the bill comes in, can't pay the bill. So what do? You go get another credit card, borrow that $10,000 on that new credit card to pay off the old credit card. That debt is still there. That's sort of the way a tax anticipation note works. The other thing that was brought up was that this was not a loan. I do want to make clear, and you can look it up yourself, this is a loan that does have to be repaid at some point in the near future. If we had taken that option at that time, yeah, we would have kept the millage rate the same, but we would have kicked the can down the road for future generations to have to return that debt. And I personally did not see that as being fiscally responsible to take that debt and put it on the shoulders of my children or my grandchildren or your children and grandchildren to be paid later. That's not the right thing to do. That's very similar to what they do in Congress, that let's just borrow, 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 and that hole of debt just gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. That was not an option. Fortunately, none of the other council members agreed with that option either, so that died. No one person can make any decisions about the tax base for Tifton. It's a council that votes together. To have a balanced budget, you can't roll the tax back and take away on this side of the scale without taking away something on this side of the scale. This side would be the tax you roll back. This side is the service you provide. So we need to decide, if you want the taxes rolled back, which service are you willing to forfeit? Public safety, public works, cemetery, well, what is it? Street department? You tell me. We felt like we had cut to the point that we couldn't cut services anymore. I want to share with you too the benefits and the results of what has happened over the last couple of years as a result of that millage change. We were able to hire public safety officers to police our streets. That was extremely important. I don't know the exact number that we hired. I want to say it was somewhere between 8 and 10 officers, but more officers on the street. Now I know Mr. Cater has proposed street lights, and that's a great idea. We do have lots of areas of town that are dark and need more lighting. I agree with that. However, if I'm faced with, if I find myself in a situation where a crime is taking place and I'm caught in that, I'd much rather have an officer coming to my aid than a streetlight. So just food for thought. Also, we were able to pay off, combining the millage change, the SPLOST dollars, and then some general fund dollars, we were able to pay off CityNet debt. That was an albatross around our neck for many, many years. So getting that off the books and all of the interest and all the fees that were associated with that freed money for later on down the road that we can use in a positive way to bring back services, maybe even potentially roll back the millage rate in the future, just not time yet. We also restored our contingency fund. Again, I mentioned Charleston. Think about something happening in this community that could be a natural disaster or just something catastrophic that we would need that source of funds. The contingency fund was funded for many, many years by our gas department. That was always called the cash cow. Back in the days of big industry, when we had Tifton aluminum and some of those types of industries in our industrial park, they used massive amounts of natural gas. And that is what's called an enterprise fund, where something is sold to that user and then that user pays the city back for the use of the product, in this case natural gas. And it was, that fund was significant. However, unfortunately, when the type of industry we had changed and that gas fund depleted, we used all of that contingency fund to operate over the course of the years. So it was kind of a false sense of security. So when we got rid of the contingency fund, when we had borrowed and used all our savings for what I just call day-to-day living of the city, there was nothing left. So there was nowhere to go borrow from. So fortunately, it carried us through times where we didn't have to have a millage increase. And for many, many years we didn't, but that fund was depleted and that fund was to be there in case of an emergency. That's being restored as we speak. Also, we ensured financial solvency of the city. I've talked about the fact that we were one of our options was potentially bankruptcy. If we had continued on that track, I truly think that's where we were going to be, but we have restored financial solvency. We also regained the ability to attract and maintain qualified employees. It's so important to have trained employees. Most of our interaction with our city employees is generally the folks, the nice ladies that work at the customer service department where you go and pay your bill. But think about police officers, think about firefighters, think about those people that need training, where that longevity of life with the city is important because every day is on-the-job training. We also were concerned about how this would impact senior citizens. So at the time that we changed the millage rate, we also offered our senior citizens an increase in their homestead exemption on their personal residence, which allowed them to sort of offset. I don't think it was a direct penny per penny offset, but it was pretty close to offset that millage increase for them. So if you are a senior citizen and you're watching this now, please go to our tax office at the County Administration Building and make sure you are taking advantage of the maximum amount of homestead exemption that you have available for you to help offset that. You know, in a nutshell, it's really time for leadership. Sharing this information with you is important because I've said all along it's important that you have the information you need to know what's going on with your city. It goes right in line with my desire to be transparent, to share with you the information, to be open, to be honest. When the story's not good, you need to know. And in 2013, that story was pretty doggone bad. We made a tough decision. I did not want to raise that millage rate. But it was part of a plan for fiscal responsibility that I did that. And two other council members agreed with me on that point. As you consider this information that I've shared with you today, I want you to keep in mind a couple of things. It is time for some real leadership, not just empty promises. We can promise whatever we want, but I want you to think about what the end result will be. My job is to make this government as transparent and open and honest as it can possibly be. That's important for me, and that's important for you as a taxpayer. I do not take this position lightly. It's important that I consider how we use that taxpayer money. It's not my money, it's your money. So that's important to me that we use that in a way that's fiscally and absolutely responsible. I would be honored to have your vote as the mayor of the city of Tifton. Let's vote for change. Let's vote for transparency, collaboration, honesty, vision. Let's vote for someone who will make the tough decisions, not just the popular decisions. Early voting starts October the 12th. If you have any questions at all, please call me. My phone number is area code 229-339-1776. My website is juliefortifton.com. You can email me. I want to hear from you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. I look forward to seeing you at the polls.